Good morning, everyone. This is the Vermont House Committee on Commerce and Economic Development. It is Friday, May 30th, 2025 at 11:47 in the morning. So we're here with Senator Brock on S-122. As we sent that over a day or two ago, there was an amendment, a floor amendment that passed the Senate, and it's come back to us. And so as we take that up this afternoon, we just wanted to understand what the amendment was and the reasoning behind it. And so, Senator, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you. For the record, it's Senator Randy Brock, and I'm here representing the Senate Committee on Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs. We originated S-122, sent it over to this committee, and you made certain amendments to it and then sent it back to us. And then we got this new amendments that you had added that relate to the baby bonds issue, baby bonds which were supported and really created by the Office of the State Treasurer. And we got it rather late. We just had it for, I think, a couple of days. And as we began to talk about it more in committee, and I certainly saw the amendment and was involved in its introduction the original concept of baby bonds, which we dealt with last year and created and authorized it. And at that time, the original bill was to create a baby bonds that were funded with state dollars. It was subsequently changed to be private dollars that would also be administered by the state in program. When we dealt with it this year, we recommended and passed an amendment, kind of an unusual amendment in that 3 members of the committee were present and created this amendment rather than deal with it as the result of the vote of the committee, although the committee voted with 1 member absent and the other member running out the door, but voted on it at the last minute. So we had 4 members of the Senate voted on it, and 3 voted for this particular amendment, which deletes sections 8, 9, and 10. In other words, all those amendments that relate to baby bonds from the bill, and then we sent it back to you. There was a considerable discussion in the very, very limited time we had to discuss about concerns, and the more we discussed, the more concerns erupted. And in general, of the members that voted to remove the amendment, it was principally because we felt it needed more discussion, it needed more time, it needed more understanding, and it needed to have some fundamental problems that many of us were concerned about addressed. And we felt it was best to take it out at this point, certainly bring it back, and it probably will be back for discussion in the next session. Among the kinds of concerns that we had, this amendment, this bill that we're dealing with, 122 this year, allowed for the creation of a pilot program as well as a number of administrative things associated with introducing baby bonds. And the pilot program, we found rather late in the picture, was only involved 3 counties of the state, the 3 Northeast, all in the kingdom. So it was limited in scope, but it was also limited geographically, and it was limited in terms of the ability to participate even on a pilot basis. Beyond that, there were concerns overall about the program in general. One of these, just to go back to the pilot program, the fact that it was a program that was going to test the efficacy of this concept by taking teenagers. In this case, we were told that it would be people beginning about the age of 15. Well, that is materially different than taking babies where you have a long period of time. Now, we realize there are limits as to what you can do in a pilot. But among the concerns we have is, well, what happens if there's significant changes in the population of those people who were baby bonds holders over a 20 or in cases even longer period of time before we had the program ready to begin to be applicable to a wider population. We also were concerned, some of us were concerned about the entire concept of the baby bonds program that pre-selected a group of people based on the economic circumstances of their parents today for a benefit that does not kick in until 20, 25, and in some cases 30 years later. Whether or not that was equitable to other Vermonters. For example, you have a constituent next door to a person, and they both are parents of new babies. And the person who is working, not earning a great deal of money, but whose children are not in Dr. Dinosaur, to find that 30 years later, they are ineligible for a sizable amount of money for a government program, government supported program, whereas the person who lives next door to them, who's a ne'er-do-well, is. And the question is, do we, as a state, pick winners and losers in that fashion? And again, it's something we felt that we needed to discuss further before arriving at a solution. There was a concern also, a question raised is this a worthy program? There's no question, it's a worthy program, but is this the kind of program that should be run by nonprofit organizations and not by government? And that again is a question that we had concerns about in terms of the members who voted on it. There were a number of other concerns, administrative and otherwise, about how this would work. And there simply wasn't time to discuss it adequately. And that's the principal reason that we decided this should be taken out of this bill this year, but happy to discuss it next year.
Any question for Senator Brown? Okay, John?
Briefly, thank you, Senator. One, it sounds like there were more concerns than were described here. But among those that were cited, did you get a sense of a hierarchy of just the amount of time for discussion, or the geographic specificity, or the picking winners and losers, so to speak? Did any one of them really rise to the top as?
Well, some may have risen to the top for the individual senators who voted, and other things may have been more of a priority for others. So I can't pick a particular thing. It was the sum total of the concerns that were raised that said to us, this is not the time to pass this when we have so many different concerns by so many members of the committee.
Okay, thank you.
Questions? I think it makes sense. Running out of time is not having enough time to really work on, figure out what those problems were and how to mitigate them.
There are a couple of other states, obviously, who Connecticut stands out as the one. There hasn't really been sufficient time to measure any real results there, and that, of course, is another issue. But when we ask, well, how many can we at least have an estimate of quantifying? And I'm not sure what model. It's not a Remy model that you would use to say, what are you going to get at the end of this pipeline? And how are you going to deal with the money that's collected for those people? And what are the criteria then that are going to be used? And those are things that really need to be thought through, I think, better than what we see right now.
This is for next year. I think I appreciate the thoughts. I appreciate really thoughtful comments and the deep understanding. And I think at some point we're going to have to grapple with how do we get data for a program, right? The chicken and the egg question. There's no data. How do we get data? And if we want to try this at some point, if we believe in the concept, at some point, I think we will have to try it in order to get data.
And I think that there is some data available. The data might not be available about bonds, but the data may be available of how many people who are born in a state or a state like Vermont or in Vermont on one day how are those same people here 30 years from now? And if so, do we know anything about the income level of parents? We do. We got some data that we saw this year, for example, of how many people are born that get Dr. Dinosaur. What percent of the population is that? And then how many of people who are in a low economic circumstance, such as how many people who are on quote welfare unquote 30 years ago are here today and who were born on that? And then can we determine, and that may be a confidential tax department that match what we're looking for. And I don't know if that data is available, but right now it doesn't look like we have anything.
I also don't know if that data is available, and that's really the question.
But I don't know that how much, but certainly as a committee, we haven't looked for it, nor have we seen it presented to us. And so those are questions that we ask and look for testimony, whether it be from the treasurer's office or from other agencies of government, or for that matter, from other states. I don't know, for example, what Connecticut did to validate the approach that they took. And when they decided that this was a good program, I don't know what they did, but I would like to know, because when we look at other programs that are being introduced, that's one of the fundamental things we do is we look, it doesn't exist elsewhere. How was it introduced? What kind of data did you use to determine if the program made sense? What were the results of that data? How did you weigh it? And you know, all of those fundamental questions before you approve a new government program. We weren't able to ask those questions.
That's for Senator Brown. Randy, thank you for coming in. Appreciate it. So question committee is, are we okay with Senate proposal of amendment? S-122. So all in favor of approving S-122 as amended, raise your hand. Opposed. Okay, so 10-01. Approved.
902.
902.
Oh, that's right, Kirk's not here. Thank you. 902. It'll be up at 1 o'clock Thursday.
Okay. And do I say something about it?
Yeah, you can.
I do,
Ju-
yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
remind everybody the reason, but
Yeah, well,
the 3 sections were removed.
Yep, I will.
Baby bonds, we heard from.
And then we
yeah,
heard from Senator Brock, yeah.
Brock.
Yep.
You know, the reasons, and those are the only 3 changes in 122, Rick.
And the effective dates, but that's good.
Right, because of the baby bond. Okay, thank you, Rick. Okay, if we're looking like we have time this afternoon, we may look at, an amendment to S-71 that's posted today. Nick had been working on, just to maybe give us a little something to do. Also to get it out there so people can, I mean, it's there now, it's posted, so. But give us an idea of what it is and then think about that as we go forward. Anna Grace, will you be able to be with us this afternoon?
Of course.
Okay, all right, so it's lunchtime now. Oh, yes, committee, at 12:30, if we can be in a Cedar Creek room. We'd like to do a picture with, our Senate counterparts and corrections and institutions on S-69. Just to get a picture. I think we're going to try to set up, after we're done here, set up a press conference on S-69 and probably wait until the governor makes a decision on what he plans on doing with that, so.
Great.
But I know the chair of institutions corrections would like to get a picture of all of us together, so we can meet in Cedar Creek at 12:30, that would be great.
Okay.
Okay.
Based on that picture, you can create another.
Synthetic media.
Anything else,
Using
committee?
your likeness.
committee of conference is gonna be in this room at 1 o'clock.
Right, yeah. That's on S-127. So if there's nothing else, keep an eye on your emails. I think we'll try to find out what's happening on the floor and we get off the floor at 2 or 3, which let's come back in here. We'll go through. Anna Grace, can you set up with Rick to see if he's left already? I've missed before, but just see if Rick can join us as well.
At 2?
Don't know yet. It's gonna be
Just
when we
after
have
the
our next
floor.
break. Yeah, our next break from the floor,
Okay.
right?
On 71?
Yes,
Okay.
the amendment to S-71.
Okay.
Okay, so no questions, let's go to lunch. Yeah, we can